I disagree with the president on some issues. I might disagree with him on the China issue, how to deal with China. But I do believe he was the one elected, and we should at least hear out his people, the National Task Force on the West Philippine Sea and the DFA, so that we know where we're going, di ba?
At yun na nga no mga kabayan, nagkaroon nga ng usapin patungkol dito sa resolusyon na ipinasa ni Senator Raisa Hontiveros kaugnay nga sa pagdidiin dito nga sa bansang China upang ihabla sa United Nations ang pambubuli di umano na ginagawa nito sa West Philippine Sea. Dagdag pa nito ni Senator Raisa Hontiveros ay kanya ngang ipagdidiinan ang pagkapanalo nga noon ng ating bansa sa UNCLOS laban sa bansang China. Patungkol nga dito sa sigalot sa West Philippine Sea na kinatigan naman ng UNCLOS at sinabing walang katunayan ang 9-dash line ng bansang China. Ngunit nga sa kabila ng pagkapanalo ng ating bansa, tila baga bingi ang bansang China at hindi nga nire-respeto ang pagkapanalong ito. Ngunit nga nang manalo si President Duterte noong nakaraang eleksyon bilang Pangulo ng ating bansa ay napalapit nga tayo sa bansang China na kung saan ang arbitration ruling ng UNCLOS ay hindi na natin pinansin bagkus tayo ay nagkaroon nga ng mutual agreement. At noon ngay malayang nakapangingisda ang ating mga mangingisda at wala nang bagong isla pang inokupa ang bansang China. Ngunit ayon nga kay Raisa Hontiveros, hindi sapat yun. Ang gusto nga niya ay dapat nga ang buong West Philippine Sea ay mapasa atin nga at kanya nga daw ilalaban ito sa UNCLOS. Ngunit nasopla nga siya nito ni Senator Cayetano dahil tila baga nagmamarunong itong si Raisa Hontiveros ni hindi nga pala niya alam ang batas international patungkol nga dito na kahit nga ang bansang Amerika ay ayaw makialam o tulungan man lang tayo na mabawi ang mga islang na-occupy ng bansang China. Ayon nga kay Raisa Hontiveros, hihikayatin niya daw yung Vietnam, Taiwan at Malaysia na tulungan daw tayo para labanan ang nambubuling bansang China. Ngunit ayon nga kay Senator Cayetano, hindi ganon kadali yun sapagkat ang mga bansang sinabi nga ni Raisa Hontiveros na Malaysia, Taiwan at Indonesia ay naghahabol din sa nasabing mga isla. Isa pa nga dito mga kabayan, hindi naman si Raisa Hontiveros lang ang dapat manguna sa usaping ito kung hindi ang ating Pangulo. Ito na nga ang nasabi nga ni Senator Cayetano na kahit daw magkaiba sila ng pananaw patungkol sa usapin sa bansang China ay kanya ngang nire-respeto ang Pangulo sapagkat siya ang pinuno ng ating bansa at siya ang binoto ng mas nakararaming Pilipino. Ito nga ang naging pahayag ni Senator Cayetano na kahit na medyo bad trip ako sa kanya noon dahil nga sa pangako niyang 10,000 ayuda para sa bawat pamilya na drawing lang no mga kabayan, kahit pa paano nga may magandang lumabas sa kanyang bibig na maayos at para nga sa kapakanan ng mas nakararaming Pilipino. Dahil nga ayon na rin kay President Bongbong Marcos, tayo ay magkakaroon ng usapin sa pagitan nga ng China at hindi na nga natin to dadalhin sa UNCLOS. Ganito nga sana ang araw-araw na tabas ng dila ni Senator Cayetano para naman gumanda-ganda ang image niya sa napakaraming Pilipino pinangakuan niya ng 10,000. At para naman kay Raisa Hontiveros, mabuti nga sa'yo at nakahanap ka ng katapat na mas matalino pa kaysa sa'yo. Sa tingin mo kabayan, tama lang ang sinabi ni Senator Cayetano patungkol nga dito sa usapin sa West Philippine Sea? Comment mo nga sa baba kabayan at huwag mo nga kalimutang i-hit ang like at subscribe button para updated ka sa mga uploads ko araw-araw. Kabayan, panoorin natin ang kabuuan ng video ito.
Allow me to begin with two of the important last questions raised by the good gentleman from Taguigan Pateros. Tama ba pumunta sa UNGA? Ang UNGA ba o ang UN mismo ay para sa consensus building and not for conflict resolution or not for upholding yung katamaan ng posisyon ng isang bansa na nanalo na ng kaso? Actually, if we examine history, Mr. President, tama din na i-consider nating pumunta sa UNGA. For example, Mr. President, the Nicaraguan government went to the UN General Assembly to enforce the International Court of Justice or ICJ decision against the US. So Nicaragua, isang maliit na bansa din tulad natin, ang katapat niya sa pinagdesisyonan ng isang international court, ICJ in that case, ay isang dambuhalang bansa rin, ang US noon, tulad natin ngayon sa China. They won in the ICJ, ayaw sumunod ng US to cease and desist in its activities around and inside Nicaragua, kaya dumulog ang Nicaragua sa isang katulad na resolution sa UNGA, and they were upheld by the United Nations General Assembly. So, hindi mutually exclusive itong iba't ibang ginagawa ng gobyerno natin noon at maaring gawin ngayon. Pangalawa, do we ignore the problems with other countries? No. In fact, earlier I said that the good gentleman could also request the DFA to file a case before the PCA vis-a-vis our relations with Vietnam. Hindi po mutually exclusive itong ating resolution ngayon at ang ganyang posibleng course of action. Sinabing walang teritoryo nung nakaraang mga taon. That is arguable, and I could research about that and get back to our dear colleagues on that. But yung isang malinaw na nangyari nung nakaraang mga taon which exacerbated the problem for us vis-a-vis China ay dinredge ng China yung ating seabed at ginamit yung ating sariling marine natural resources para maglikha ng mga artificial na isla, imilitarize yung mga iyon at i-claim na kanila. Hindi policy ng US na i-enforce. Actually, hindi naman policy, ni namang ibang mga bansa to enforce a favorable ruling that a country like us has been awarded in a forum like the PCA. It is up to us to continue taking the executive and legislative actions to stake our claim on the ground or in the water. And certainly, yung pagdulog natin sa UN General Assembly, as the Senate may approve it, expressing the sense of the Senate, and as the DFA would be the one to finalize the final language para makalikha ng mas malawak na consensus with other nations in the UNGA, Mr. President, I think is a very reasonable course of action based on principle at based sa nakaraang mga karanasan ng ibang mga bansa din, Mr. President.
Mr. President, yung pong Nicaragua po, sa ICJ po dinala yon, hindi po sa GA.
Katapos po ng ICJ, sa GA po dinala.
Let me finish, Mr. President.
Just I'm correcting the fact,
Yes,
Mr.
and
President.
I'm also correcting your facts. So, the general compulsory jurisdiction of ICJ, nag-withdraw ang US after that. And in fact, ang US, naghintay ng mas friendly na administration sa Nicaragua bago sila nagbayad. At walang nagawa ang GA to enforce, to make sure that US paid. In fact, some writers and some thinkers said, nag-weaken pa nga yung UN noon. Bakit? Kasi pag nagbotohan, so for example, we bring our resolution to the UN. The UN is strongest pag consensus. Ano po ang definition ng consensus sa UN? Ang definition po, walang nag-object ni isa. So sa UN po, pag nagbotohan at wala pong hindi po magbobotohan, sasabihin la it is the consensus of the UN, etc. That's the most powerful sa UN. Pag may isa, magbobotohan. So, if countries close to China vote against us, they will not implement this. It will make our PCA arbitration ruling even weaker.
No, Mr.
Kasi
President.
supposedly, that's the opinion of the good senator. And again, I bring you back to the administration of Duterte and Aquino. Because we'll go back to multilateral and bilateral. No? India and Pakistan have a dispute. One of them wants bilateral, the other one wants multilateral. Senator Aquino here and his father are very frequent sa IPU. Have you ever seen an American congressman or a congresswoman or senator there? No. Why? They do not attend these multilateral legislative bodies because they do not want to be bound by them. What I'm saying, Mr. President, is that we cannot say, don't worry, nandyan ang US, they will take care of us. Our relationship
Not
with
saying
US,
that, Mr. President.
well, many of the colleagues and allies of Senator Tiveros in the media, whether it was the former Secretary, Justice Carpio, you have given many of your opinion during the Duterte administration. It was all leading to that, no? And even in the CA, no? Even the assurances of our ambassador to US. Ang eto point ko, the US is a good friend. They're an indispensable ally. People to people sa ating security economy, we should get closer to them. But we should not be anti-US nor anti-China. We should be pro-Philippines. Because iba ang interest ng US sa interest ng Pilipinas, sa interest ng China.
Yes.
Freedom of navigation, pareho tayo sa US. Pero dito sa ating territory and sovereign rights, wala po so far guarantee ang US. Hindi po sinasabi ng US, sige, go ahead. Get the minerals, get the oil. Sagot ko kayo. Wala pong ganun. Kaya nga ang suggestion ni Justice Carpio, makipag-gitgitan tayo at pagka binomba yung ating isang barko, may war na.
Pero
Kaya nga
just,
sinagot ni President Duterte, di ikaw ang tumakbo yung
if I
barko.
may interject lang, Senator Alano, you know very much that I am not identified with the political side of Senator Rizzo Ontiveros. We align together on issues.
Agree,
This is
Mr.
an
President.
issue that we align. On this
Yes.
particular case, I do not have, as a matter of fact, in my speech, I never mentioned about the United States.
Yes.
There's nothing here on my push for this resolution has nothing to do with
I'll
my
clarify that,
friendship
Mr.
with the
President.
United States.
Yes.
I just want to put that on record. And I think the frustration that we feel is the frustration that is felt by the Filipino people. I asked the Pulse Asia for rider questions. 8 out of 10 want us to strengthen militarily against the Chinese push in on the Philippines. Almost 9 out of 10 want the Chinese out of our territory. 9 out of 10, ha? That's 90%.
Hanapin
So-
natin yung 1, dapat 10 out of 10 yun.
Hindi naman. Meron naman kasi, alam mo naman, meron naman siguro na iba yung paniwala. Ang punto ko dyan, the freedom of navigation is not for the US alone. It's for us. For example, when we try to resupply our Marines in Ayungin Shoals, my distinguished colleague, they will not allow a larger ship to pass through. Bangka lang po. Ang ibig sabihin, ang madadala lang nila ay pagkain at kung ano pa mga gamot. Yung my dear colleagues, hindi po sila nagpapadaan ng mas malaking barko because as much as we want to fortify Ayungin Shoals, which is already occupied by Philippine soldiers, just even to put a tent, they will not agree on. They're acting as if it is their territory already. As a matter of fact, that was the last skirmish we had when our supply boats were trying to send supplies to our Marines in Ayungin Shoals. And if you look at the map, Ayungin Shoals is between Pag-asa Island, which is a municipality of Palawan, and Palawan. It is closer to the Philippines. Yan ang punto ko. It's just so blatant na, alam mo, pag medyo malayo-layo pa, okay lang. It's just practice, medyo malayo din po yan. Ang aking speech kanina was just basically on Mischief Reef, Ayungin Shoal area, and Reed Bank. Before you know it, kanila na po yung El Nido. Before you know it, baka nasa San Vicente na po sila. Before you know it, nasa Aurora side na po sila, which is the Benham Rice. Because they are sending ships there now to the Benham Rice. So I think as a nation, I agree with you, we should discuss this bilaterally. But if all our avenues bilaterally will fail because they refuse to listen to us, as a matter of fact, their foreign ministers, I don't think they have a Foreign Minister Wang, your friend, is no longer there.
No, he has returned.
He has
So,
returned.
Wang
Did
is
did
now the foreign
did he show up
minister.
now? He's back again?
No,
Because
no.
for a while he disappeared.
No, the one that disappeared has been replaced now.
Okay.
And the former foreign minister, state councilor, and member of the Politburo is back.
I'm
Mr.
glad to hear
President,
that.
I'm
But
going to yield
to finalize my point is, on the measure you mentioned earlier on Pimentel versus Executive Secretary, it was also held that participation of the legislative branch in the treaty-making process
Yes.
was deemed essential to provide a check on the executive in the field of foreign relations.
Yes.
And yes, the president is the chief architect, but it continues to mention that the Senate may express its opinion on foreign policy. And we've done that
Yes.
in many resolutions in the past.
Mr. President, I will yield to Senator Tolentino. And let me just say that I agree with most of what you said. Ang disagreement natin, ano yung tamang paraan i-address yon. Nag-agree tayong lahat sa problema. Magkakasama tayo sa issue regardless of political color or administration. What I'm saying is that it's such a big step. And even if we can do it, should we do it without consulting the executive? Because it might weaken us in front of the international community. But let me yield to Senator Tolentino.
President, just
Mr.
a
President, and
mild
with the
interjection.
indulgence of the good gentleman from
Mr. President.
Cavite, if I may just say quickly to the last comment
Because I
of the
have a
good gentleman.
5:40 p.m.
Tagigan.
Boarding now.
Oh,
Just a
boarding.
mild interjection.
All right, Mr. President, in that
I'm supportive
case.
of this resolution, but if
Where
I
is the
may
dear
be-
colleague from Cavite going to?
if I may be allowed to continue with the interpellation on Monday, Mr. President.
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. President.
of course. We may continue.
I had looked forward, Mr. President, to the Senate possibly adopting this resolution today, Mr. President, if possible.
Mr. President,
we
may,
can take
may,
it up if
may I make a recommendation that I think...
we're a deliberative body. I
Yeah.
said that in my speech on Monday.
Mr. President,
I think
may-
we should allow people to,
Mr. President, may I ask
participate.
that before session Monday, can we take this
or
up
else I
in
will be
caucus?
called again by my minority floor leader for not following my privileged speech.
Sir President, maybe we can take this up on caucus. Do we pass it? Do we bring it to the committee, etc.? So if you want to pass it on Monday and adopt it, then if that's what the majority
May I
wants,
suggest,
at least because Mr. President, I'll just
Yes.
give you one good reason why. Ang pinakamasama kasi is yung mga nakikinig sa atin sa kabilang side, alam yung strategy natin. So marami
why I don't
akong
want to put
dapat
it on a
isasagot
committee
sa inyo.
hearing. Yes.
Hindi ko masagot dito because hindi dapat sa publiko. It's not because it's confidential or it's backroom, but just because, you know, parang chess or basketball, tapos yung camera, yung coach, ganito gagawin natin, ha. So if you know, if I may appeal to our colleagues, let's have a short caucus just to discuss it. And of course, kung yun ang gusto ng majority, then we will submit. But at least mapag-usapan natin behind closed doors the implications of not being in sync with the strategy of the president. And in this issue, there's no majority-minority with the president. It's Philippine interest.
Although the Senate has stood ground many times by tradition,
Yes.
not always in sync with the executive.
That's true, Mr. President.
On
But
the issue of the
independent
VFA,
institution.
when the former president had canceled the VFA, we in the Senate stood
yes, Mr. President.
pat.
But that
had
did
the-
not weaken our position. But in this case, if we are not in sync, kung sasabihin natin ganito gagawin, sasabihin ng presidente, DFA, iba gagawin yung ambassador, as a former secretary of DFA, I have
I
stood
understand
there
your
negotiating.
position as a former secretary.
So we should
or the
strengthen the
first part.
position of the country and I disagree in the president on some issues. I disagree in the president on some issues. I might disagree with him on the China issue, how to deal with China. But I do believe he was the one elected and we should at least hear out his people, the National Task Force on the West Philippine Sea and the DFA, so that we know where we're going, di ba?
At muli kabayan, kung bago ka pa lang sa akin channel, huwag mo kang kalimutang i-hit ang like at subscribe button at magkita-kita tayo ulit sa mga susunod pang video. Paalam!
Gusto kong iparin ang tayog ng ulan. Gusto kong sisirin ang lalim ng dagat. Gusto kong akyatin ang tuktok